Mick Gordon je hudební skladatel, který je známý tím, že dělal soundtracky do hry zvané Doom a Doom Eternal. Dnes si rozebereme některé části z jeho podcastu, které se týkají právě jeho soundtracků. Dnes budeme mluvit například o soundtrackích, které nevyšly, nebo málem nevyšly, anebo naopak, jak byly stavěné. A na konci si ukážeme porovnání mezi Mickem Gordonem a dvou lidí, které dělali soundtracky do DLCčka Doom Eternalu, neboli The Ancient Gods 1 a 2. Já si myslím, že mluvení bylo dost a můžeme začít.
The BFG division, for example, that riff itself is very specifically crafted for a tight mix. The most important thing in the mix is the snare drum, to me, especially in a rock or a metal track. The snare drum is the most important thing. And if you want your thing to be the loudest possible thing or the most important possible thing, you need to give it a stage or a platform where it stands on its own. And the best way to do that is ensure that whenever the snare is playing, nothing else is playing with it. So it's not another guitar hit playing with it. It's not a kick drum playing with it at the same time or something like that. So that BFG division riff was literally written so there was a gap where the snare drum would be.
Jednoduše řečeno, pro Micka Gordona je nejdůležitější věc v metalové nebo v rockové písničce virbl, nebo v angličtině, jako bylo řečeno, snare drum. No a jde o to, aby ten snare drum šel slyšet co nejlíp, což vlastně Mick Gordon chtěl, tak vlastně s tím snare drumem nehrálo nic. Doslova jste mohli slyšet, že vlastně vždycky, když byl ten virbl, nehrálo nic. Kdyby tam ten virbl vlastně nezněl, tak by tam byla obří díra, prostě jednoduše řečeno.
Is the first track I wrote for Doom 2016, the first full track, was Rip and Tear, and it was rejected. They knocked it back. They said, no, this is definitely not what we want here at all. And so I kind of retreated from that and put it aside and then went and did all these other tracks that are a little bit more like, I don't know, avant-garde or a bit weird or like flesh and metal and stuff that sort of bounce around all over the place. It never really settles into a solid groove for 16 bars or whatever. It's kind of all over the place, right? And right at the end, BFG Division was one of the last tracks I did. And I purposely held off sending it to them because I thought they were going to reject it as well. And so I sent it in kind of last minute-y, and they were like, okay, I guess we'll kind of put it in. Yeah, no, maybe that'll work. And they never said anything about it. They never said they liked it or it fit or anything like that at all. It was just kind of put into the game. And then we had one level right at the end. It was a hell level. And we needed a piece of music, and there was literally no time. There was like 2 days left. And they're like, look, we really need music for this level, and we don't know what to do, and what do you want? And I'm like, well, you know what? We've got that first track that we rejected, so maybe let's just throw that in there and we can get it over the line, and that'll do it. And they're like, yeah, that'll be cool. And that was Rip and Tear.
Jednoduše řečeno, Rip and Tear byl první soundtrack od Micka Gordona na Doom 2016, který byl zamítnut. A ono to vlastně jde i celkem jako slyšet, když si poslechnete Rip and Tear a ostatní hudby, které byly udělané. Ty ostatní hudby prostě znějí jinak než ten Rip. No a důvod, proč vlastně Rip and Tear je součástí Doom 2016 je ten, že vlastně u konce jim chyběl poslední level a v tom levelu chyběla hudba. No a právě měli už strašně málo času, takže nestíhali prostě to dělat. Právě, že jsem zapomněl říct, že Mick Gordon si ten soundtrack jakože odložil, že ho jako nesmazal, ale odložil ho. No a potom se jich zeptal, jakože když nemají čas, jestli tam nemůžu dát tenhle soundtrack. Oni jakože ano, jo, proč ne? No a to byl Rip and Tear.
What was really clear on Doom Eternal was that the gameplay itself was going to be very different. Well, not very different. I don't want to say it like that, but it was going to be a lot more like resource management and very tricky, very difficult to play. And so when the first pieces of music that I was putting together started getting into the game, it actually wasn't working. It was actually like too much. It was getting a bit too distracting. It was just, I remember the first track I put together was like really quick. It was about 264 beats per minute. It was like really, really fast, like really, really, really quick. And when we put that into the game in a really challenging level that was halfway through the game, and, you know, there was so much going on in the game that the player had to focus on, the music was actually just getting annoying. Like, it might have been a cool track on its own, but it was just annoying in the game. It was just frustrating the QA department. And so everybody was like, it's not working, we've got to try something else. And I think it's tempting in that stage to be like, you know, those blocks of the pressure that you have, you know, might start influencing you a certain way, but you really have to kind of say like, what's going to do best for the game? You need to kind of shed all that pressure and just focus on what's going to work out best. And that's why a lot more of the music in Doom Eternal is sort of slower groove-based stuff. Stuff like Meat Hook that's a lot slower, that down, boom, ba down, boom, ba boom, boom. Right? It's a lot slower and sort of groovier. And that was purposeful because it was almost like it allowed the player to make their cognitive decisions in between the beats, right? So that way they could process all the information of the game that they needed without this crazy music kind of trying to get in their way.
Jednoduše řečeno, ta hudba 264 beats per minute, neboli úderu za minutu, byla jakožto první hudba, kterou vytvořil Mick Gordon pro Doom Eternal. Ale zjistilo se, že když tu hudbu zadáte do těžkého levelu, tak prostě se to k tomu moc nehodí a začne vám to spíš lézt na nervy a vás to prostě distraktovat, neboli prostě vám začne odpoutávat pozornost spíš na tu hudbu. A to je ten důvod, proč nikdy nebyla přidána do hry a místo ní se vytvořil soundtrack jménem Meat Hook, který je víc pomalejší a už prostě se hodí do toho levelu, takže vlastně jak ten level, tak i ta hudba vlastně spolu takzvaně souvisí, nebo prostě jsou dobře navázaní, nevím, jak tam jinak říct.
I really wanted the game to kind of have throwbacks to Doom 2, the original Doom 2, as much as possible. And there's this great moment at the end of the game. I don't know, for anybody who hasn't played it, you finish the final boss, right? And the final boss is this incredibly epic battle with this giant demon that's the size of a skyscraper, right? Spoiler alert. And you fight this demon on the top of a skyscraper. And then when the demon dies, the camera was going to pan around and sort of zoom out from you, the Doomslayer, walking toward the edge of the skyscraper. And I saw it and I'm like, oh, you know what would be the best thing there? Is into Sandy City, right? You kill the bad guy, you turn around, the camera starts panning back and bum 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 bada bada. And I'm like, oh my God, I mocked it up and I got goosebumps. It was that cool, right? And I knew Doom fans would just be like, oh my God, that's perfect. So anyway, I put it together and I sent it off and it got rejected. And I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Like, why is this rejected? It's cool. It's solid. And they're like, no, it feels too like gamey. It feels too kind of 8-bit gamey. And I'm like, oh man, I got so frustrated at it.
Jednoduše řečeno, Mick Gordon chtěl, aby prostě Doom Eternal konec měl prostě strašný flashbacky na Doom 2, protože ve Doom 2 taky zabijete Iconov syn a vlastně začne tam hrát Into Sandy City, což je ta hudba, kterou teďka vlastně jste slyšeli, akorát je to vlastně už předělávka od Micka Gordona. Bohužel to tam nedali a místo toho tam dali starý známý At Doomsgate, který je taky od Micka Gordona, ale z Doomu 2016. Tak tohle bylo pár faktů o soundtrackích, které byly z jednoho podcastu vystřižené a pojďme se vrhnout na rozdíly mezi Mickem Gordonem, Andrew Hasseltem a Davidem Levy. Tak já doufám, že se vám video líbilo, popřípadě se můžete zanechat nějaký komentář. Zatím nazdárek, užívejte večera, dne, nebo kdy tohle se já se s vámi loučím a čau.